Hello, my name is Runa Chatterjee, and I am going to perform a couple of descriptive analysis based on the data that I have received from a biology benchmark exam. The research questions that I will attempt to answer based on that data are as follows. Let us look at the first research question. What was the average score of students according to the teacher? Let me show you what kind of data I have with me. So looking at column B, there are individual student scores. There are 500 of them. And here is a table with biology benchmark scores distributed across three different TEKs, 6A, 6C, and 6E. Here are 5 teachers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the first analysis that I will do is to calculate the average score according to the teacher. And likewise, we will find average for the rest of the teachers as well. So looking at these averages, we know that teacher 2 had students who had the greatest success in that benchmark exam, whereas teacher 3 had students who struggled the most. Let us also calculate the average performance of TEKs across the entire team, biology team in the school. So 6A averaged at 55, whereas 6C was 62.4, 6E was 61.4. So TEK 6C had the greatest amount of success, whereas TEK 6A was the area where the students struggled the most. Moving on to research question 2. How were the comparative scores of all teachers in different TEKs and the school average? So let's go back to the Excel sheet. And here I have the same table with biology benchmark scores distributed according to the TEKs along with the school average. What I'm going to do here is plot a comparative chart so that we can visually see how different or similar were the performance of students who were taught by these different teachers. So let's go to recommended charts. And I like the third option where we not only have comparison between the teachers, it also gives us a trend line, which is the school average. So we're looking at TEK 6A, and teacher 4 has the maximum amount of success, whereas teacher 3 had students who struggled the most. 6C, teacher 2 had students experience most success, whereas teacher 5 had some trouble. And likewise in 6E, both teacher 3 and 4 performed below average and the others were above average. So when we have a team meeting, when we're doing data digs, teachers can collaborate amongst themselves and share their success and their struggles. We will go ahead and give this chart a good title. We're going to call it Comparative Performance. Going back to my research sheet, planning sheet. Third question, what was the frequency of students in different performance bands? We're using this term performance bands, which is very similar to the criteria in STAR exam where we call them does not meet, approaches, meet, masters, etc. So here I have the same student scores. Minimum score on that test was 0 and maximum was 100. Based on that, I have created some class intervals and created bins with the highest limit over here. We are going to go to data analysis in order to plot a histogram to see what was the frequency of the students in a certain class interval. So input range is going to be the individual student scores. There are 500 of them, and those got selected. Bin range is the set of upper limits of the class intervals, which is right here. That was the bin. And then we have labels because the top row has labels on them. Our output range can be G2, which is all right. This is our output range. And then we need a chart output. Okay, we have some problem here. We are going to reconfigure our input and output range. So my input is right here, all the 500 of them. Bin range is going to be that much. And then G2 is fine for the output range. So here is my histogram. I'm going to move a couple of things around. For example, I need my frequency inserted right here across the class intervals, because really I want a histogram not with the bin range. Instead, I want my histogram with class intervals. So I'm going to plot another graph. And I will superimpose this here because that's the graph I want everyone to see. You can become small. This graph can become larger. All right, so this is what I wanted to see. Class intervals at the bottom and frequency in every class interval. We will do a couple of things over here. For example, I do not want these gaps between the columns. So I'm going to go ahead and convert it into a histogram. And then we need to insert some borders. So that we can differentiate between, yes, that's what we need. Okay, so you see, now we have class intervals in the terms of star language does not meet. We have a frequency of 49. Approaches, we have a frequency of 166. Meets, 177. And masters, 110. And the last thing I would like to show you is a comparative. You see this row, teacher 5 shaded in green. I want to show you a comparison between the average school performance and this teacher, because teacher 5 was a long-term substitute teacher, and I want to show how different or similar was the performance of her students with the rest of the school. So while in the first category, the first TEKS, her students performed a little lower, and even in the second TEKS, her students performed a little lower than school average. But look at the third TEKS, her students performed higher than the school average. So in my planning sheet, I have referred to the long-term substitute as LTS and highly qualified teachers as HQT. So the comparison between certified teachers and long-term substitutes is as follows. There were 2 TEKS areas where the long-term substitute teacher students suffered a little bit. However, there was one TEKS where her students performed even higher than the school average. That is the end of my video.